Hey friends, I wanted to take a moment to tell you about my new book, Negotiation Made Simple. For the past 20 years, I have helped business people put together important deals, lawyers settle big lawsuits, small business owners grow their business by getting the most value for their product possible. And through this, I've learned a process on how to use negotiation to deliver outstanding deals. This particular book is those 20 years and everything I've learned about negotiation that's packaged in a very practical guide for solving problems, building relationships, and delivering the next deal. I hope you will jump in, buy this book, read this book, put it to work, and in doing so, you will be equipped to get better negotiation outcomes and to get what you want, not only in business, but in life as well. Go purchase Negotiation Made Simple wherever you buy books and use 2024 as an opportunity to take your next step in your negotiation success. Welcome to Negotiation Made Simple, where we help you master the art of negotiation and win the next deal. I'm your host, John Lowry. If you search the internet around negotiation, the most common context in which negotiation is searched is salary negotiation. There are thousands of people today that will Google salary negotiation, wanting insight, wanting instruction, wanting to know how to manage a salary negotiation. What I want to do over the next 3 episodes is to walk through a series and provide counsel to people that are looking to engage in salary negotiations. And what I have is 3 secrets, 3 things that I think are a bit counterintuitive, but critical in terms of successfully negotiating a higher salary, whether you're starting a new job or whether you're looking to get promoted, or whether you simply are looking for a raise as it relates to your current role. Let's jump in and learn this first secret of salary negotiation as we launch this exciting new series and hopefully answer a lot of questions that clearly a lot of people have. Let's go ahead and jump into our conversation. One of the strategic questions of any negotiation is the question when. When is the best time to sit down to have the negotiation? When do you have the most leverage that will help you deliver the best deal in the negotiation? So many people I find mess up when to have a negotiation. And as a result, they start the conversation or they begin the process in a moment where they don't have as much leverage. And as a result of that, they're not able to capture all the value that they otherwise could. This is certainly true when it comes to salary negotiation. That's one of the biggest strategic questions that has to get answered is when do we have that conversation? Now, what happens is many times people who are not very sophisticated or perhaps have not thought through this very well, they will have the salary negotiation at some moment that is driven by something going on in their life. And so I remember one time someone came to me, I was the manager in this case, and someone came and said, I need a raise because my daughter's turning 16 and I need to buy her a car. And so that's going to up my household expenses and I need a raise to cover the car payment. Well, I am really excited about the fact that this particular employee's daughter has gotten her driver's license and is in need of a car. But the reality is that's not how compensation is established at an organization. It's not based on the financial needs of the employees. It's really based upon how much value that person brings to the table, what is the industry average in terms of people that are performing that service and that market. I mean, there's a lot of data that kind of drives where an employee should fall on a compensation scale. And yet, what we find is that many people, they haven't really thought about this question of when. And so they approach this conversation at the wrong time and for the wrong reasons. And as a result, they don't get the answer that they want to get. And so the first secret that I'm excited to talk about is to understand that the negotiation starts long before the negotiation starts. And if you will embrace that, what it will do is it will help you answer this question when. And it will help you answer that question in a way that gives you the maximum amount of leverage going into that conversation. So let's take this particular context to where it's a salary negotiation. Perhaps you are looking at a new job and there's a new opportunity there. Perhaps you're looking to get a raise at your current job. Either way, when becomes very, very important. And so as we start thinking about this negotiation and this moment where we are going to ask for a raise or we are going to set expectations for what we think we should be paid in this new job for this new company, much of that will depend on how we've set up for that moment. And so as you think about your current role, as you think about your performance, as you think about hitting your metrics, as you think about the contribution to the company that you're making, it's important to be thinking about how to maximize those things. And here's the kicker, and documenting them. And so think about it from the perspective of your resume. In your resume, I find that a lot of resume coaches and career coaches will tell you to be very specific on resumes. They will want you to share numbers. They will want you to show demonstrated success. And usually that demonstrated success isn't just, well, I did a great job on this. Usually it comes to the form of, I was given a $500,000 goal and I exceeded that goal by $164,000 and generated $664,000 for the company in 2023. That demonstrated success against the goal, that shows real value. Now, what we're doing when we start thinking like that is we're starting to set the other side up to say yes. We're putting them in a position to where they can go to bat or they can defend a decision to give you as the applicant or the candidate, or perhaps the employee or the employee being promoted. It puts them in a position to give you more money, which is exactly what we want to accomplish in a salary negotiation if you're the employee. And so thinking about how to build that story, notice that the negotiation has already begun. No, you're not at the table. No, you may not even know who you're negotiating with, but the negotiation has already begun. And so building that resume, building that base of demonstrated knowledge, of demonstrated success, so that you can walk in and very easily establish the value that you will bring to the new organization or to the new position that you are being promoted into. That becomes the absolute best thing that I find people can do in getting ready for a salary negotiation, is to understand that you want to be preparing for the salary negotiation that you're going to have 6 months or a year from now. By the time you get to a place to where you're applying for that new job, if you haven't done any of this, then it becomes very, very difficult to ask for the higher range of the salary. Or if you want to get promoted and get paid more, and yet you really haven't done much, or you haven't established that you're far more valuable than what you're able to show in your current position, then you're just not in a place to where you have as much leverage with a hiring manager. What I find is that a lot of hiring managers, they actually want to promote people. They actually want to hire people. They want to pay folks well. And the reason they want to do those things is because it creates stickiness. Those employees that are well compensated tend to stick around longer, even if the work environment may become a little bit more challenging. And so I find that people actually want to give people higher salaries. What they need, though, is the justification for doing so. They need to be able to show the return on investment. And if they can't show the return, then they're not going to do it. That's what businesses are all about, is creating return on investment. It's the same thing with an employee. With an employee, you want to be able to show that the investment that you will make in that employee in terms of their comp will be returned, hopefully will be multiplied, and as a result, that will be a good business relationship between the employee and the company. But if you as the candidate or you as the employee aren't able to establish that there will be a return, if you are not able to establish that you've been able to add exponentially higher value than perhaps what you've been compensated for in the past, then you won't set up the hiring manager or you won't set up the manager for success. And that's exactly what you want to do. So the absolute best thing in terms of thinking about salary negotiation is to get ahead of it, to get way ahead of it. And here's what I would instruct you to do as you start to think about your next salary negotiation. Number one, right now, go back and reflect on all of the great work that you have done and do your best to put some numbers to it so that you can tell your story with metrics and you can tell your story with numbers. Just like you would if you were trying to sell a piece of business and you were going B2B and you were trying to establish the value that your company brought to another company, you would use numbers, you would use data. Same thing is true. So right now, go back and do that. Secondly, begin to think about and look forward to the next 6 months or so, if you have that kind of time before the salary negotiation, and start thinking about what you can achieve in that next 6 months or that next year to where you can start to build that story and you can start to drive those milestones. I tell people all the time when I'm doing strategic planning with them, write the annual report next year right now, and then go to work to live into that, to fulfill it, to make that story that you've envisioned the story that will become reality for the next year. It's the same thing if you're an employee. Go ahead and write that story and then go live into it, and you'll be in a place to have a better salary negotiation. And then what I'd like for you to do is I'd like you to look at the calendar. And so whether you're looking for a new job or whether you are perhaps looking for a promotion or a raise at your current job, look ahead at the calendar and pick your spot, pick your moment very carefully. Many times I've had people come to me wanting a raise, and the challenge is they pick the wrong time of year. So budgeting gets done in November, but they come to me in April. And so as a result of that, the budget for this particular year is already set, is already in place. We've already worked through comp for the next year. And now all of a sudden, here you are a few months after that process asking for a raise. Even if I wanted to give it, it's harder because it's out of sequence in terms of when an organization does the reviews and gives the raises for the following year. At the same time, you also want to look and say, okay, when might I finish this huge project? When might we wrap up this major initiative? And is this a moment where it's a good time to have a conversation, maybe about a promotion or maybe about a raise? And so trying to fit into the rhythm of how the organization not only hires people, but then also manages comp, that's really, really important as well. Because if you pick the right time when the organization is trying to put the budget together, you have a better opportunity of getting more. If you pick the wrong time where the manager is very limited, now all of a sudden you've made your play, but because you've made it at the wrong time, you're not going to get as much for it. And so I want you to be looking forward. Now, the last thing I'll share is some of you may say, well, John, I'm in this process. That's why I'm listening to this podcast right now. I don't have that kind of time. Like, I'm going to have this conversation next week. Well, there's still some things you can do. But if you find yourself next week in that conversation and it doesn't go exactly as you want it to because you didn't do all the work that you needed to get ready for it, here's what I want you to do. I still want you to think forward. I still want you to build that vision in terms of getting to the comp level that you want to get to that is appropriate for whatever position that you're in. And here's how I want you to do it. Invite your manager into the process. And so ask questions like, if I wanted to make this, what would it take? What would I have to do? If I am successful in the project that you're giving me, is that an opportunity at the end of it for us to have a conversation about additional compensation? Ask these questions in advance. Number one, what it will do is it will manage expectations very softly. It will set the manager up for knowing that you're looking for a raise, or knowing that, yes, you're new to the company. Yes, you're kind of coming in at this level, but you want to achieve this level. Second thing it will do is it will show aspiration. It will show that you're ambitious. It will show that you aspire to success and to higher things. And those are all really good things, especially if you're just joining a new company. And then the last thing it will demonstrate that I think is really valuable is that it will show that you want to earn it, that you're not entitled. The biggest thing that drives hiring managers and managers crazy is that people walk into their office, they demand a raise or they demand a higher salary for this position that they're looking at, and yet they do it from a place of entitlement. They don't do it from a place of having earned it. And as a result of that, there's almost resentment in giving that raise or agreeing to that compensation level. You don't want it because you're entitled to it. You want it because you earned it. And so by setting this process up front and allowing it to play out over the next 6 to 12 months and telling your manager that you want to earn it, well, that's a way to where you set them up to where if you achieve those objectives, if you hit those numbers, if you show that value, you'll be in a place to where that manager has been set up to give you what you want. And they'll do so happily because you've provided to the company what the company wants from you. And what I find is that in most really good companies, they will want to share the rewards and the fruits of your hard work with you and provide you the bonus or the additional comp or the additional vacation days or flexibility, whatever the case might be. The last thing I'd say is, as you think about this salary negotiation moment and recognize that it's not really just one moment, it is an elongated process in terms of getting to where you want to go. It is really important to have some clarity, but also to have some understanding. And so one time I remember I had someone come in and this person was making about $70,000 in the position that they were in. And they walked in and they asked for a $57,000 raise. I think it was even higher than that. It may have been $67,000. It was something outrageous. And so I just simply asked the question. I said, help me understand what it is that warrants such a significant pay raise. And I remember just the look on that person's face, having had done nothing in terms of being able to establish why, in this case, it was a female, why she was worth that much. Now, what she had done is she had looked at some data, but in looking at the data, she had promoted herself several levels, and she wasn't quite there in terms of her educational level or her years of experience. And as a result of that, she got to a number to where, in 20 years with another degree or two, she certainly would be worth what it is that she was asking for, but she wasn't there yet. And sadly, this just wasn't a great place to start a salary negotiation because this person in this case looked rather ridiculous. And so it's important that when you walk in to kind of know your stuff, to kind of have a sense of what people in your role make. And then absolutely aspire for the higher end of that range, but to know the range and be reasonable about the range so you don't lose credibility in what you're asking for. So if you follow those steps, if you embrace this first secret that the salary negotiation starts long before the salary negotiation starts, if you do the hard work and you document it, and you give yourself leverage, and then you're willing to ask for it, you're willing to be ambitious, this recipe right here will set you up to have a successful salary negotiation and to make more money. Well, thanks for listening to this episode where I shared secret number 1 about salary negotiation, and that is the negotiation starts long before the negotiation starts. A salary negotiation is not a moment, it's a journey. And it's a journey that if you take the right steps along the way, you will be in a position to do very well at the end of the journey. And in this context, that means more money and more opportunities for you in terms of your career. I hope you'll continue listening with us. As we move forward in the next 2 episodes, I will share with you 2 more secrets that I think are critical to helping you achieve better outcomes and better results in your salary negotiations. Thanks for listening to Negotiation Made Simple, and we'll see you on the next episode.